Yes, it is the Blue Room. It is time to reflect on some more Everton defeats. A week ago, we beaten Leeds. Seamus Coleman was scoring from all angles, and things are looking a bit brighter. But 2 matches, 2 losses, 6 goals conceded, none scored, and the mood has turned very bleak. I've got 3 guests with me today: Jake, Paul, and Rob. This podcast has started a bit later than I was maybe planning because the lads were just having a 15-minute chat there about Bruce Springsteen, going back from 1985 up until very recently when Rob saw him at the weekend. I felt like for a second there, Rob, we were just going to just turn it into a podcast all about the boss for a second, but we are going to have to speak about Everton. But I know that some people got in touch with you on Twitter and were very keen to find out how the show went at the weekend. Very quickly, how was it?
My expectations were incredibly high going in, and it blew away all of my expectations. 3 hours, no opener, played a mix of stuff from his entire catalog, and every song they played every song as if it was the final song of the night. Like everything felt like they were trying to make you feel like rock and roll really was magical. I mean, and I'm talking a band that had guitars, drums, a real piano, but also a keyboard, and then a full like a brass section. You had a couple of like backup kind of soul style singers as well. I mean, that is a band, like there's your traditional band with like a guitar player and a bass player and a 4-piece, which is always part of rock and roll. But the E Street Band is just as full and big of a rock orchestra sound in many ways as you can imagine. And it was just pure joy. I could not wipe the smile off of my face for those 3 hours. And I know he's coming over to the UK and into Europe. If you get a chance to see him, guys, you just don't know how many more opportunities you're going to have left. He's 73 and looks incredible and looks very healthy and moves great and shreds the guitar. But if you just never can take anything for granted. It's like the same thing I say about, I'm glad I saw Prince, because you just never know. And so I can't recommend it enough. Absolutely fantastic.
There we go. And yeah, Jake's got his Bruce Springsteen mug. Paul was telling us about when he saw him in the 80s. It was just a perfect coming together of non-Everton chat. But yeah, we are here to talk about the Blues, unfortunately, lads. As I mentioned there, it's not even been 24 hours yet since the 4-0 defeat to Arsenal. Jake, I'll come to you first, mate. I asked you to come on yesterday because I knew we might need some cheering up. You are very much the man that we go to when Everton lose games. How are you feeling after last night? Because I think the results are kind of what we all expected, but it's one of them, isn't it, where there's ways to lose a football match, and that wasn't a great way to lose it.
No, listen, I'm here to be optimistic, so I'm just going to keep myself on mute for the rest of the it is, I don't think anybody went in expecting anything. And that's why the weekend was so disappointing, because we would have took a hit on last night, given a positive result at the weekend. But as you said, there's a way of losing, and what I think one of the most frustrating things about Everton at the moment is constantly making unforced errors time and time again, and it is so disappointing to see players who should absolutely know better making stupid mistakes time and time again that are just costing us games. Like, you can argue that the Gay incident didn't necessarily lose us the game, but it was pretty much game over once that second goal went in, and you just think he'd done all the hard work and then he just unforced errors every single time. I'm watching Everton at the moment. It is unforced errors that we only have ourselves to blame. And so, yeah, you go in expecting maybe part of you, maybe the Evertonian in you expects maybe we could get a point, maybe we could get something out of it. You will have gone in expecting a loss, but it's just it's pretty dire at the moment looking at this team and just thinking, how does it change? And losing like that last night, doesn't matter if the best team in the league, which I think they absolutely are. It's a hard result and performance to take.
Yeah, I think for me, Paul, the worrying thing is that I think for an hour against Villa and for 40 minutes last night, we actually did all right in both of those games. The Villa game is, I think, ultimately decided because they've got a centre forward and we haven't, and he sort of drags them over the line. Obviously, last night there was a game plan there which did kind of work for an hour, and we got in and had chances to make chances, but in those, in that 100 minutes of play I just mentioned there, Everton still aren't scoring a goal, even when they're playing all right and doing quite well against decent teams. And it's just one of them that as soon as those goals go in both games, not only does it look like, there's no way getting back into it because of the attacking or lack of attacking quality we've got. It feels a bit like a house of cards at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I get what Jake was saying there as well. It's quite frustrating that the daft mistakes are costing us games. We're playing quite well for parts of matches, and then we got to get to 40 minutes last night at the Emirates. You could hear the crowd was getting a bit tense about how well we were defending, and then to give 2 goals away just before half time like that, we just makes no sense whatsoever. It does. The second one in particular. I mean, sadly gone again. I know it's one of these things, isn't it? When you bring the player back, expect him to be the same player he was when he left, and he's clearly not. He's clearly nowhere near that standard. He's made a number of mistakes this season that cost us points. The Villa game, for example, at 0-0, we're playing the best of football. He puts in that challenge, and he's got a habit of giving penalties away against Villa. He gave one away. No, so ignore that. Yeah, but it's he's just making daft mistakes, isn't he? That turned the game against us on Saturday against Villa as well, and. Yeah, the lack of attacking options that we're all hugely concerned with, and really, we're struggling to find the solutions to that at the moment. One thing that really worries me is, I look at our Premier League squad, 25 players, 6 of them are centre backs. Look at our bench in the last three games. On the bench, out of 9 subs, 4 are centre backs. So we've got quality centre backs on the bench. But the only central midfield option we've got to change the games, if you class Demonague as a winger, is Tom Davies. Now, if you're relying on Tom Davies to come on with a match-winning performance to turn the game in your favour, then you really are being clutching straws there, aren't you? So it's just a real sad indictment of the woeful recruitment policy. And when you think that recruitment policy has brought us Neil Mopay, what's that, 1 goal in 17 years or 17 matches? You get confused these days, and it's just so frustrating, isn't it? That this situation is of our own making. Purely and simply, it's down to decisions at the boardroom level why we're in this mess. Most clubs would have learned from last season's example. We haven't. We just can't kind of thought, well, we'll kind of somehow conjure up another miracle of survival again. But maybe you can kind of play Russian roulette with relegation so often, can't you? And maybe this time could be it.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me, Rob. It is sort of wing and a prayer stuff now, isn't it? It doesn't feel like there's any route to go for Everton aside from bizarre things or set pieces, and that you can look at the squad, and unless you can get Calvert-Lewin back and playing regular games again, that's kind of how it's going to stay, isn't it?
Yeah, I listened to your post match last night with Mark, which no one really. I know a lot of people kind of shy away from post-match pods after heavy defeats for obvious reasons, but you really should go back and listen to Mark Mosey trying to speak as quietly as possible while he's clearly in a room with his infant daughter, trying not to wake her up and talk about Everton. But you guys remarked on something last night that I just keep kind of banging my head against, and I think the club is collectively banging its head against, which is that there's not really like there's no solution coming. We had a window to find some some external solutions, and there's just none coming. And I think that we can continuously talk around things like underlying numbers, and if that makes you feel better, or maybe you want to talk about shifting the deck chairs here and there on the periphery, but the bottom line is that hey, we've maybe improved our XG both attacking wise and defensively, and that has still amounted to the only real stats that frankly matter at this point. I'm not faulting the new manager for this, but I'm just telling you that the way it is he's come in and done and kind of given you those little incremental improvements that you hope to get. but incrementally improving side that can't score goals. And let's be honest, I think that we have consistently overstated the defensive capabilities of this thing throughout the season. Granted, I think that the defense and the midfield's job is made harder by the fact that you don't have any attacking threat going forward. But I don't know what else to do. I mean, I think I keep coming back, Matt, to what you just mentioned there, which was, and this is kind of dire, but you know, this side has to find a way to kind of manufacture goals off of things like set pieces. And I wonder if we are like, let's take the starting 11 last night. I thought, I wasn't really sure what the manager was talking about when he made one change, and when they asked him about why Cody was dropped, he said something along the lines of, well, they're playing 3 games in a week and that's a heavy workload, but yet he started 10 of the same 11 players. So, you know, he didn't go rotation. There's not much to rotate. I understand that. But it's so strange. Like, I guess you could squint and say, well, maybe Michael Keane, he's tall, so maybe he's going to come in and help with a set piece here or there. But I just don't know that. I don't know what the manager can do to a degree. I also know, though, that whatever he tried to do last night with bringing Michael Keane into the 11 felt sort of preposterous. And then suddenly you're getting Mason Holgate in defensive midfield. You're bringing on Ben Godfrey for the first time in forever. And it just felt like, I don't know if this was Deitch being cute. I don't know if this was him just experimenting, but all of these, any experimentation with this squad feels like just bad ideas being rolled back out there for the sake of change, more than they are actually anything that can help. I think the only two players that can come in that would actually represent some kind of at least change to the dynamics of the 11 in theory are James Garner and Patterson making his way back. I don't know what else you do, because I think we can start to put to bed this notion that Ben Godfrey is going to offer you anything at fullback. That was as disastrous a cameo as I can recall. Michael Keane was not great on the first and third goals. He looked about as motivated and, you know, stiff and kind of behind it as you can imagine for someone who has not played since the end of last season. Why he's suddenly coming in for 90 minutes, I don't really know. The bottom line is that any of those critiques of Deitch's decisions they're so secondary, because he could have picked an unchanged 11, or he could have brought in, maybe I would have, like, for instance, I would have maybe said, okay, bring in Mina for Cody. And that maybe we concede 2 goals instead of 4, but we're still not scoring. And so, you know, what do? I think the only path here for me is you try your best to create as dangerous a set piece lineup as you can. You try to manufacture goals. And you try to still be as okay defensively as you can. And the fact that I'm sitting here trying to decipher and squint and figure out what kind of really sad plan that would be productive as possible is really depressing, because I just don't know what to talk about anymore, Matt. Like, there's no attacking help that's coming. These solutions have to come from within. And so to me, if you can't score from open play, which we have shown consistently that this group without Dominic Calvert-Lewin cannot score from open play, and even with him, let's be honest, it's not great. Then to me, I want a set piece group out there that reminds me of his old Burnley sides, where you got 2 giant center halves. In this case, you have Onana. Create as much chaos and weirdness in that box as you can, and just start peppering the goal with even with bad shots, and just hope that these big bodies create deflections and what have you. It's not great, but I think we are at the point now where if you want to invest your hope in the underlying numbers being a little bit, like, underlying numbers are great, but they only really matter as it points towards a longer term trajectory. We don't have enough time left in the season for these underlying numbers to mean much if we're not scoring goals and we're allowing this many goals. So something's got to change. Don't know what it is. More time with the manager. it only points to any improvements you see. Only point to the fact that Deitch should have been hired far earlier. We should have addressed things in the window. When and if we go down, it's not going to be a nuanced conversation as to why we went down. We went down because we did not replace goal scoring that we lost last season. We did not sack the manager as soon as we needed to. End of. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, Rob, if you want Yerry Mead to play up front, just say it. It's fine.
Well, I don't care. I want maybe
this is a safe
Onana
space.
play. Like, I'm at the point now where no idea is a bad one.
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
Matt? Like,
yeah.
no, I don't want Yerry Mina to play up front. But do you go 4-4-2 and say put Onana up there? I don't know. Like something. If Garner can come back in, for instance. Do you move Onana somewhere else? I don't know what Abdoulaye Doucouré's job is. He's really bad when he gets in there. You know, he's not going to help with goal scoring. But I don't know. I don't have any answers, and I'm sure that Sean Dyche, for all of his remonstrations about like, oh, this is a better squad than I've saved better squads from relegation than the one that I inherited at Everton. He's saying all the right things, which I think is really sweet and cute and whatever. But it's not. This squad is so scarred by 7, 8, 10,000 managers we've had, and just they're now so ingrained in losing that I don't know that he can save it given the lack of actual external resources and time, frankly.
Yeah, do you know what? I feel like if your cards are down and we've had our hand dealt to us, we haven't recruited, and that will be that will go down in the history books as absolute negligence. And I think when you're in this situation, which I think Sean Dyche obviously has been in before, and I do agree, on paper the squad is better than squads that he's had in the past. But what you need in times of this is you need to look at your group of players, and you need somebody or a few within that group of players to stand up and to say, I will be the one who's responsible. I will drag us through games. I will do this. And you need them internally to have the mentality to get you through. And I think, yes, he's had worse squads than us, but I think he's probably had players with a better mentality to get themselves out of this situation than he has right here. You look at that squad, who are you looking at? Who's got that mentality to do it? And you look at somebody like Seamus Coleman. I think Seamus Coleman has shown over the years that he has a mentality to outperform probably what he should do, and the fact that he's still starting, captain, scoring. I feel sorry for Seamus in many ways because he shouldn't be there. And that's because the way the club's being run, that he is still there doing that. But I think he's somebody who possibly has the mentality. I look at that squad. I don't know who else has that mentality, who can actually, as a group of players, come together. It shouldn't even just be one or two. It should be as a group of players coming together. And that's what you need in this situation, is you need that internally. And it worries me. It worries me that I don't know if we have. I know like Onana's shown that a little bit. And I think one of the really disappointments of last night, I know we said everyone expected us to lose, but as well on the back of the weekend and the Villa result, is that suddenly, winning that Villa game, you would have felt actually we're getting out of this. Suddenly we can be leapfrogged. And that's the worrying thing for me. I think the only hope that we've got in this situation is that others are dragged in, and it's quite close for a lot of teams, but suddenly you can be leapfrogged, and that feels and looks a lot worse than it did this time last week.
Yeah, go on, Paul, go on.
Yeah, no, I think Jake and Rob were really correct there about the mindset that Rob mentioned, to be the mentality that Jake mentioned as well, because you kind of look, really, that's going to be Dyche's job between now and the end of the season, to try and get a really mentality into that team. And just some of the names we're throwing about here. Yeah, I mean, James Garner could make a difference, but I don't know. So I haven't seen him play this season. He's played about 45 minutes, hasn't he? And Nathan Patterson might also make a difference, but he's very injury prone. So basically, I think we're going to have to work with the players that we've got and get better performance out of them, which is easier said than done. I guess we're all agreed that Neil Maupay as a lone striker is just not going to work for the rest of the season, is it? So what alternatives are there? Okay, Ellis Sims, I know he's not a big favourite with lots of supporters, but his goal scoring record at every level he's played at has been quite impressive. So is it worth taking a gamble on somebody like him? Because otherwise, I just don't see where the goals are going to come from. Onana, I like, but he frustrates me because he disappears in away games. I think he's great in home matches, but away matches, to me, he doesn't contribute enough. And I think one of the problems that Everton have never solved in the past 2-3 years is pace. We just haven't got enough pace in the team in key positions. So, yeah, I deeply share the concerns expressed so eloquently there, but by Jake and Rob, because I think we are in a situation of our own making. I think you make a really good point there, Jake, about all the teams being close to us. I mean, bizarrely enough, if we were to win, against Forest at the weekend, we could climb up to a 14th or 15th position. So the only two things that keep me going are, one, there's other teams, and watched one of them last night, Southampton, that look worse than us. And I think basically it could come down to a shootout between ourselves and Leeds United in terms of avoiding that third bottom position. Finishing 17th this season is going to be a massive success for Everton. And unless someone can step up and start scoring goals for us, I mean, like Alex Iwobi scored three goals in 2 seasons. For a creative midfielder, that is nowhere near good enough. Onana scored 1 goal this season, nowhere near good enough. If your strikers aren't scoring, other elements of the team have got to contribute with goals. So you're hoping the midfielders to stand up. Rob, you mentioned Yerry Mina. I think from set pieces, Yerry Mina is a threat all the time. He scored 7 goals in 39 games for Colombia. You kind of think he could bring an attacking potency that maybe we lack as well. So I know it's desperate measures, but we've got to consider any route out of this situation at the moment.
Paul, let me add to that. Look, I'm very self-aware of any advocacy for what Yerry Mina looks like coming from me. I understand that,
but I agree, Bob.
But here's the thing. We have these two conversations, and I've been having them on Twitter a lot lately about how, we've just got to find a way to get any amount of games out of Calvert-Lewin that we possibly can. He gets injured all the time, but we'll take whatever we can get because it's important. And then on the other side, but out of the other side of those same people's mouths, there's a lot of, you can't play Yerry Mina because he could get injured. And I'm like, he is fit right now. He is being paid over £100,000 a week to sit there and not contribute at all. And I don't understand it. If your argument is that you shouldn't give him a new contract, I completely agree with you. He has not proven himself to be reliable enough for a new contract. But right now, all of that stuff about next year and summer and improving so that we can get towards none of that matters right now. Only thing that matters are these last set of games. And to me, if let's just say that we get and I'm just using this as a hypothetical for how we look at this in a very short-term way, because short-termism is kind of frankly all that matters right now because it's about survival. If Yerry Mina plays like let's say he did what he did last season, where he had like a man of the match type performance in a home game in a 1-0 against Chelsea, and he was incredible, and then he gets injured after that, we will still take that 3 points we got from Chelsea. You know what I mean? If Yerry Mina's presence alone opens up space in that box on a set piece for Onana or for James Tarkowski or I don't really care who it is, that in and of itself, in addition to the fact that he's a good defender, would make it worth playing him until he's hurt again. I know he's going to get hurt. So what? Everyone is going to get hurt. Like Calvert-Lewin can't stay fit either. And yet we would all bite our hand off if he could play against Forest this weekend. And so I am just of the opinion that we do not have the luxury of having this kind of odd selective snobbery about, he's disappointed me in the past, and so therefore I just won't even consider him as an option now. And again, this is not just about Yerry Mina. This has got to be our thinking in general. Like what we know about, what we know right now is that Neil Maupay can't do it. We don't know if Ellis Sims can because he's not been given any extended period of time. And so I just try something else. We know what doesn't work. We're seeing it, fully on display. Try what can, and then when you get to the end of that conversation, we get right back to where we started, Matt, which is that these solutions probably won't work either, and we don't have any others, but we don't have any other solutions to try. And so get unconventional. If you're talking about putting Onana up front or putting someone alongside Maupay or Sims or what have you, this is the time when a manager has to frankly exercise all ideas and say so that at the end of the season, whether we get relegated or we stay up, he can at least say, look, given the squad I had, I literally tried as many different ideas as I could to get us out of that. This notion of consistency, like hey, no one loves an unchanged starting 11 when it's working more than me. The problem is that people keep talking about, well, you got to have consistency and so on and so forth. But consistency only really matters if it's working. If you're going to consistently start the same group who continues to have the same problems, then you've got to make a tweak at some point. You can't just say, well, there's this virtue of starting the same 11 or starting the same back four every single time. And I'm like, yeah, that virtue is not going to get you an extra point that you need in the table to stay up. Like that makes for a good masterclass that you're going to record later, I'm sure, that we're all going to watch. And maybe the players just need to see that the V again and understand how the V works defensively or what have you. All I know is that we have a problem scoring goals, right? That does not fully explain how terrible we were defensively yesterday. It partially explains it, but it doesn't fully explain it. And so, I would tell you that Sean Dyche, to his credit, has gotten 2 wins out of this thing, which is incredible. You take those results and you love them. But we are now at a stage where we have scored 2 and conceded, is it 8 now? Since he took over, and I'm not blaming him I'm not blaming him for that. But what I'm telling you is that the nuance and the kind of the grace that we give him for that. If we go down there and we lose 2-0 to Forest this weekend, suddenly you're staring at like 2 goals scored and 10 goals conceded, and a bunch 3 losses on the bounce, and suddenly all of those really cute videos where we're watching the players run wind sprints and making them look like they're having to suffer a lot. It's not so funny anymore. It's not as cute anymore. Like, the novelty of that stuff wears off fast. At some point, there's got to be a strategic plan and some change of course that shows something different. And if he can't, I feel for him, because maybe he just doesn't have the players to try anything different. But I think that once Patterson and Garner get healthy and you have a few more options here and there, maybe you have to try some different things. I don't know what it looks like, but hey, for all of us saying that poor Sean Dyche and all of this, and I agree that this is not an easy situation. Sean Dyche lobbied for this job. He wanted this job. He knew what he was walking into. And so there can be no we should keep, even if we get relegated, we should keep Sean Dyche or whatever. I guarantee if we watch this for the next, 18, 19, however many games are left, I've lost track.
That many.
No, there's not that many. I'm sorry. Like the next dozen plus games and we get relegated.
13.
No, 13. No one is going to say, well, I still want to keep going with this manager moving forward. Like this thing needs wholesale changes. So I'll be interested to see what Sean Dyche can do. I feel for him because he has been dealt a terrible hand. I think he's a good manager. He's clearly improved us in some ways and in some ways has not. Are his decisions, making things better or worse? I think that is still to be determined.
Yeah, it feels, Jake, like, I said this last night, but Sean Dyche could make 8 out of 10 decisions right for the rest of his time at Everton, and this team could still get relegated because he's been that badly hamstrung. I mean, how do you play football at this level without a centre forward? How do you change games without literally, like Rob said, with 5 centre backs on the bench and a wing back in Vinagre who's never get on the pitch? It feels like it's almost impossible, isn't it?
But what as I'd mentioned it before, and I think one of the most frustrating things must be as a manager is that you say, right, here's the game plan. You stick to this, we've got a chance. And then you get unforced errors by players who know better that absolutely ruin it. Paul mentioned before about giving away that penalty last week, and it's like, how frustrating must that be as a manager to go, if you just didn't make those mistakes that you don't need to make, we'd have a chance, and we can get that goal from a corner, we can get that goal from a free kick, but you have to do your job. And you've got to do it.
The frustration in that was just evident by the fact he just dragged them off at half time straight away and put Holgate in there. Because it felt to me like that's a pissed off manager just dragging off a player who's done his head in there.
Absolutely, and there's different styles of different management, and some of that is putting your arm around people, and some of that is. But it's got to get to this stage where you go, we can't do that. We cannot operate where you are making those mistakes. Yes, he's absolutely. He's got the dregs of the squads in the league at the moment. He doesn't have a striker who's scoring all of these different things, and yet you can put people in different positions, but you need them to do the job that they are asked to do. And if they're not, I don't know what more a manager can do. There's no real nice approach to this. We are absolutely in a situation where you've got to do the job I'm asking you to do. You've got to do it properly, and so you can have the plans, you can have all of that. That's really, really difficult to be able to do it. I just feel like, Rob made a point there about Yerry Mina, and in the past when people have said about Yerry Mina, I think, well, he's going to come on, he's going to start, and then that's going to be the first sub that you make, and then it changes your game plan. Well, actually, it doesn't change your game plan because you've only got defenders on the bench anyway. So regardless, you're bringing a defender on. So actually, maybe it's absolutely the game plan. So yeah, it's not a bad shout at all. We could end up with a Steve Watson type of approach again, where now that worked, but I just don't know. You look at this team and go, who's going to be the person? Yeah, I mean, when he's approached by kids outside saying he's going to give he'll die for this club, and I for one take him for his word on that. So I think maybe it is worth it, but something's got to happen.
Here's my question. What's the risk if it doesn't work? He's injured again, and we're right back where we started. Yep. Everyone, I don't understand this idea that it's this huge risk playing Yerry Mina, because when he's playing, he's really good, and then
still the best defensive centre-back at the club, isn't he?
Well, I know that's almost become a punchline joke of a statement, Matt, but he's better than Connor Cody, and I don't know. Now, granted, I know Connor Cody's is the classic, second guy into a scrap saying, hold me back, and looking like a tough guy. And that's great. But look, Yerry Mina is not going to solve everything that's wrong. This is not a Yerry Mina podcast. It's more about the principle of saying that right now we have to kind of let go of these kind of, I think we have these ways in which we talk about who should be selected and why and whatever, and that it's about building something towards the future, and it's about creating this consistency or whatever. We have 13 games left, so none of that. I don't care about next season right now. Guys like Mina, and let's be honest, half of the squad are going to be out of contract or going to be gone from the club next season, regardless of what happens, or at least should be, right? So that's all for later, okay? No matter what happens, Yerry Mina will always be remembered as someone who didn't fulfill his great promise here because he couldn't stay fit. I agree with all of that. I agree that if he had been, that's been a problem. But the bottom line is that stuff doesn't matter right now. I need a big body who has got a mean streak in him in that penalty box, who is going to be responsible defensively as well as be an attacking set piece threat. Why? Now, I will tell you this, guys, for all of this talk about him, maybe it's because he's not English enough. I don't know. But Sean Dyche seemed to, last night almost seemed like a statement of, I will play everyone but him. I will play Mason Holgate and Michael Keane. I think everyone was reminded last night of what the Michael Keane experience is like. But again, the fact that he is going out of his way not to play Yerry Mina either means that even though the videos make it look like Yerry Mina is participating in all of the training and he's fine, he's sitting on the bench, he either doesn't like Yerry Mina, or Yerry Mina is still not fit somehow, or there's some weird thing going on we don't know about. So I don't really have confidence that is going to change. I'm just simply saying that right now we don't have the luxury for our beefs. We don't have luxury for, our narratives about players right now. If Michael Keane could play, he is a big guy who can score on a set piece. If he was any good defensively, personally, then I would be advocating for him to play. Hell, I might even advocate for him and Yeri to come back, or play a 4 center half, lineup like we did with Carlo. I don't know. I am up for any solution that you've got. But what we saw last night was a reminder of a few guys who cannot play. Mason Holgate cannot play football for Everton. Okay. Ben Godfrey, I don't know, guys. Like, I mean, I love those first season memories where he was throwing in tackles and we made GIFs out of him and we were sharing them online and we were like, hell yeah, how great is that? But those players just, they don't seem like they're going to contribute anything. Hey, maybe Yerry Mina comes in and he sucks, fine, then move on to the next thing. But we've got 5 center halves on the bench. You might as well play, you exhaust all your options. But the bottom line is that I don't understand. I think that not having Damari Gray on the pitch as well, or not having like he's only scored 3 goals and he's our top scorer, and he should be a backup on any, a bench player on any half decent team. And that's at best. But we don't have the luxury to not play him right now. Like I think right now that you can't keep banging your head against the wall of saying, well, look, we've got to be consistent. Well, when your consistency is consistently losing, that consistency doesn't matter. And that's the bottom line. So I want to see ideas, but I suspect at Forest this weekend, we are going to get the same 11 and the same formation and everything we got last weekend. I think Michael Keane will be back out and Cody will be right back in. And we're going to have to hope that works. I don't like that approach, and I don't believe in making wholesale changes. The 2 changes I would literally make would be Mina for Cody and Gray for Mopé, and at minimum. But I just get the sense that Deitch is kind of one of those managers that he's going to do it his way and he's going to prove a point, and we'll see if it works. Maybe it works, and if it does, great.
Mina up front.
I agree there, but I think Mina's worth a try against Forest. I think in particular, if I'm right, Forest have lost their 2 regular centre backs at the moment, haven't they? Because they tried to get Steve Cook back in the Premier League squad as a backup centre back. Yeah. So there's obviously an issue with their defence there. Mina's height and set pieces to me just seems an absolute no-brainer. It's definitely worth a try with. And I just think, to me, I know every week we say this is the biggest game of the season, but I think the Forest game is really important in so many different ways, because we've got to. Our away record is appalling. Is it 3 wins in 2 Premier League seasons so far? So it's got to change somewhere.
2 wins in 18 months.
I mean, doesn't that tell you everything? So I think
I worked out last night that we've won in the last 5 seasons. We've won 13 away games in front of a crowd.
Yeah, I would take a draw on Sunday for that very reason, by the way, because any points right now matter. Yeah. So yeah,
I take the draw, but I think we have to go for a win in this game, because I think Jake mentioned before about momentum of the first 2 games, the first 2 home wins on the Dice. I think we need to bring that into the Brentford game. I think what we have to avoid is starting off that Brentford game, and there's no guarantee Tony's going to be banned by that stage. So I don't think we have to really. Hope that we've got some momentum brought in from a performance in Nottingham Forest that gives the fans some hope and gives something to hang on to. And Damari Gray, I think it's been clear from day one that Sean Dyche doesn't like Damari Gray, and he doesn't fit into his plan for some reason. But as you said, Rob, he's our top goal scorer, so we're not scoring goals. It seems to me a basic equation that that can be remedied quite easily there.
In fairness, Paul, the thing is that Dyche's preferred center half is like a Calvert, or center forward is a Calvert-Lewin type, which I totally agree with. He would rather have that than Damari Gray. The problem is that he's playing Neil Mopé because he can't play Calvert-Lewin. He's playing Neil Mopé instead. And if you're going to say, well, Damari Gray is too small or whatever, then what is Neil Mopé? He's small with less attacking ability and less pace. So just give me Damari Gray. I don't understand. I'm not saying it solves everything. There is no quote solving everything with any move. Like you could take your favorite 2 moves and all it might do is give you 1 extra goal or a little bit of improvement. But right now, that's going to be the difference between us staying up and going down, is maybe a game where we get 3 points where we wouldn't have ordinarily got it, or a game where we get a point where we wouldn't have ordinarily got it. Like that's what it's going to take. And so from that standpoint, whether he likes Damari Gray or not shouldn't matter. It should be simply that if I am looking at Neil Mopé and I'm looking at Damari Gray, someone needs to ask Sean Dyche why he's looked at those two players and why he is assessed that Neil Maupay is a better option in that position. I don't fully understand the logic or the rationale behind it.
Yeah, Sunday, Jake, I'll come to you, mate. I think we had a reply from JH on Twitter that sums this up, saying, I know we always say the next game is massive, but I genuinely believe if we get nothing on Sunday and the results go against us, then it's all over. So Sunday is absolutely massive in brackets for real, and I think that's kind of true, isn't it? We've said a lot of games recently that this is our biggest game of the season, this is it. But there's a chance there, as Paul mentioned, to go 1 point behind Forest, but there's also a very good opportunity to go 7 points behind them as well. And listen, I'm all for buying into the people trying to buy into the positive side of it, and if we get this win, we can move up or to whatever, etc., etc. But you just look at that away record, and I don't know, and you look at the way they've been playing at home. I think they've not lost at home since September. In the Premier League, it's going to be a tough one, isn't it? And the way in which you've wilted in recent games, I don't know. Sitting here right now, I find it very hard to be positive about it.
Do you know what? I'm not necessarily going to be positive about the game. I think Paul is right. You have to go for the win, but again, the going for the win, I think for Everton at the moment is what we've all discussed, which is you have to defend. You have to, we all of us here are talking about scoring goals. Let's not forget our defensive record is atrocious, and we're leaking goals. And Everton at the moment feels like if somebody scores against us, we are losing. We're not scoring two. So I think the game plan will be don't concede and try to get a goal. I'm not necessarily going to be upbeat about the game. I think it's going to be a very hard game. But what I am going to say is it is not all over if we get beat on Saturday. It is not game over. Like the results, the other fixtures and the results from the other fixtures, some of them are going to go our way because there's teams around us playing big teams. Some of them are going to go our way. As I said before, the only difference, or the biggest difference, I think, between this season and last season is that there's a lot of people in this. A lot of teams are involved in this. Now, you will get, Everton versus Forest. If Forest win, that means they're pulling away a little bit. But there's a lot of teams in this, and that's something that I think we need to remember. A win, a result, a draw can make a difference. And so it will feel like it's game over for a lot of us because we'll be really, really downhearted. But it's not going to be game over on Saturday. But we have to go. We have to try and get what we can. And as both have said anyway, I think just even a draw would be a positive result. But we have to go and try and nick it. But it's not the be all and end all on Saturday.
Hey Matt, just to kind of clarify and put some context to this. Tell me if this sounds familiar in terms of what we've just done in February. But Forest scored 2 goals in February, conceded 7. They have a 1-0 home win to Leeds. They have a scrappy draw at home with City. They play better at home. They got absolutely hammered by West Ham away. They got comfortably beaten in London against Fulham. There's not a lot of difference between us and Forest in many ways. This game is there to be had, but we all can fully acknowledge that this is a game where a goal one way or the other probably decides it. Like the idea of either of these sides scoring more than a goal in a game kind of seems somewhat fantastical given the
two lowest scorers in the league, aren't we? Wasn't that? We're the lowest, they're the joint second lowest, yeah.
And by the way, that should only strengthen the argument for saying, look, if we're going to have trouble scoring from open play and getting forward and doing those things, then get me the tallest, biggest, nastiest lineup I can get out there for set pieces. I'm just whatever that looks like to me. That is get me Onana in there. Obviously, you're gonna get Tarkowski, get Mina
up front again.
Well, no. I just mean in terms of when I have a corner, when I have a set piece, the more big people you have, even if they're not the ones scoring the goals, they occupy space that frees up others. If Calvert-Lewin can, and by the way, I thought it was notable, and again, I'm squinting here, the fact that when he was asked about Calvert-Lewin yesterday, he seemed to indicate that there was a possibility he could play. He's touch and go, but him saying touch and go was actually more optimistic than he's been about Calvert-Lewin lately. So if there's any chance that you have that, then I want 4 big dudes in the box every single time we have a set piece, and you hope that you can score a goal from that. Ever since, go back to the derby away at Anfield, and you think about that moment where Tarkowski almost should have scored, and from that point forward it's just been bad for Everton, right? Like, I feel like it's been pretty bad. So I feel like you've just got to create a few more of those chances. Something's going to go in. I think Everton and Sean Dyche especially, like, he has always had sides that were good at set pieces. So put your biggest pieces out there. There's nothing to lose. I don't care who's been injured in the past. I don't care if you like this guy or not. Give me your fastest attacking players on the counter, which we don't have many, so put Gray in. I just would rather see those 2 changes. They're not huge wholesale changes. There should be no reason why you can't put Gray and Mina in and at least get the basic same formation and structure and overall effort that you've had, but you may have some improvements in those margins that can be the difference between 0 points or 3 points on Sunday.
Yeah, Paul, finally, mate, how do you think it's going to be? Sean Dyche has got a season ticket at Nottingham Forest, of course. He was watching them a lot when he was out of a job before taking over Everton, so he should know them pretty well, at least.
Yeah, he should do. And he was born and raised not too far from Nottingham, was in Kettering, so I'm sure as a kid he would have watched Nottingham Forest quite often as well. Yeah, I just, I'm really trying to, I love Jake's optimism there. I think we need that because the season's not over if we get beat, no question. And there's so many teams around there that, I mean, 36 points kept you up last season. I can see 32, 33 points keeping you up this season, which is still potentially within our reach with a few good performances if we can score goals. I don't know about the other guys. I just have this horrible nightmare. It's 89 minutes. It's 0-0. Andre Ayew comes off the bench and delivers a winning goal for Forest. You can just see kind of the script is being written. I'd rather go with Rob's potential outcome the other way around. We throw a mean one for the last 5 minutes. It's 0-0. Bullets header from the corner. We win 1-0 and the season takes off.
Fine. Yeah, I'll take it.
Anything
that gets us a win, guys. I don't care who plays. Just for the record, I have ideas on who should play, but hey, we've all been wrong about it because the squad's bad. I just get 3 points. Don't care how it's done. I want to get behind this team because what choice do we have? It's dour right now, but I just feel like it's there. Forest is not that good. We're not that good. We're bad, but so are they. Like, they're only slightly less bad than we are. So we just have to find a way. Can we get Cenk Tosun back for a game, Matt? What are the other options at striker?
I just think that what happens there, as Paul just said, last second, you bring Yerry Mina on, he runs up, he heads it in. Born to Run comes on by Bruce Springsteen, everyone goes mad, and we go on and get Europe.
I don't think I could recover from that kind of storyline and outcome. By the way, I would pass out.
I think we all join in there with the cause of "I'm on fire," don't I? Or "Yerry's on fire." We make a chance about that, can't we? There's got to be potential there somewhere, surely.
Oh God, yeah. He's probably getting just celebrating one Yerry, bless him.
Yeah, probably.
But
insert your own joke
cares?
here. If he's already scored the goal, who cares? And if we get those 3 points, if Yerry Mina is literally worth only 3 points to us for the rest of the season that we wouldn't have ordinarily got, I don't care. That's fine. He's gone anyway, so you might as well just get what you can. It's like, that's all I care about.
And I think so. We've all said, I mean, the number of centre backs we got on the bench each week, we'd afford for centre backs because that's the one position we've got loads of cover in. So that really should not be a concern.
Yeah, if we do go 1-0 up at the weekend, my word, we should be able to see it out, shouldn't we? 6 centre backs on the pitch.
Just be prepared, guys, because it wouldn't shock me if Michael Keane is starting again, or he just brings Cody. Like, he brings Cody right back in. fine. Like I don't think Cody is that good, but let me tell you, yesterday I would have taken Cody over Michael Keane. So
yeah,
I mean, we've gotten to that point now.
Tough night for
Matt, on a serious note, Matt, Andros Townsend, is there any chance of him playing this season? He's just kind of disappeared off the radar, and he does score goals.
Yeah,
I mean,
but I don't think he's fit.
He's not played for over a year now, has he? So I mean,
Remember
remember when Balassi
Balassi?
came back from that same injury, and he was just
Yeah.
never the same player. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we'll wrap it up there anyway. Hopefully, Jake and Rob's and Paul's theory come to light. Yerry Mina last minute.
No, hey Matt, do not put the words Yerry Mina on the tweet about this show, because then they're going to see my name, they're going to see Yerry Mina, and no one's going to listen to this podcast. So,
I mean, you have been on your Yerry Mina soapbox again, haven't you? Let's be honest. But
I didn't mean to, but my God, all I know, you can't. Let me just put it this way: don't tell me that the only route we have to score goals right now is set pieces, and then expect me not to bring up the biggest giantest dude we've got on this squad. Like, I don't. What else can I? Like, he probably was literally signed off the back of his set piece goals from the World Cup. So how can we not bring him up? But look, I don't care if Yerry Mina doesn't play and we win. I'll be thrilled. I don't care. I just want to win.
Yeah, we will leave it there anyway. Do tune in for the rest of the week for more Yerry Mina agendas. I'm sure.
I hate you, Matt. I hate you so much.
Cheers to Rob, Jake, and Paul. Hope you enjoyed that Everton chat. Bruce Springsteen chat as well, of course. Hopefully a bit more of that further down the line. But that has been your weekly show. Here's hoping the Blues get it done this weekend. We'll speak to you soon.